defensive posture, meaning containing the spill. I have a product called FlowStop football and golf ball. That's a sponge that's been injected with a fast drying chemical and hydrocarbon resistant resin. You've got 3 minutes to use it or lose it. So if you have a puncture in a fuel tank or a drum, tote, IBC, you can use one of these, doesn't matter what the material is, to block off the breach in the container. Now, when these happen, these spills take place, there's usually ground contaminated or the pavement has got pooled product on it. That's where spill tackle comes into play. It'll absorb it up. Jacob and Andrew with spill tackle are going to explain their product and the use of it to you. Randy Cook with OMG Solutions also has a product called Eliminate. It comes in liquid form. You don't have to cut it. It's already prepared and ready for use. And you spray it on, and it'll give you a neutralized result, bringing the ppms down within permissible limits. And it puts a smile on the EPA's face. And then Charles Fader with Hanby test kits has a system that'll allow you to test water or soil to prove that you've gotten all the contamination out. Okay, so John, the football golf balls come in a sealed pouch that you see here with four gloves, 2 pair of gloves, and you put both pair of nitrile gloves on before handling it. He'll tear this full pouch open, which has got the unit inside sealed in a plastic bag. Now once he opens that plastic bag, we'll pour water in there to activate it. And it takes about 4 to 6 ounces of water. You'll need it for about 5 seconds. And this paint can's full of clean water will simulate it being a punctured saddle tank, and he'll apply it to the puncture. And the hotter the ambient temperature, the higher the ambient temperature is, the quicker this is set up. But when polymerization takes place and it's setting up, it'll heat up. However, it doesn't reach a level, so you don't have to worry about causing an explosion or anything. And you hold it in place so that you've got it sealing off the puncture while it's setting up. So for the time factor, what we'll do now is we'll simulate having a spill here as a result of this puncture can and show you how spill tackle works. We'll also pull a sample of soil that's been contaminated and let you see how the Hanby soil test kit pulls the test results out, showing contamination and then clean. Okay, hold it upside down, see. Now, until it completely sets up, it's going to weep until it completely hardens up. And the resin in the sponge is the barrier that blocks off the fluid from running out.
Like Barry said, this is Spill Tackle. It's a new product that's used in roadside response. We'll show you here Spill Tackle, 120-pound bag is roughly equivalent to 120 to 150 pounds of your standard cat litter or oil drive. You put down a lot less product. It helps the operators get off the side of the road a lot faster. In addition to that, it's USDA biopreferred, so it's made from 100% recycled and sustainable materials. It's also on the EPA's National Contingency Plan for spill response, listed as absorbent material. In addition to that, we've also been U.S. EPA leachate tested for disposal across the United States, and also tested to the California Code of Regulations. As you can see, spill tackle, it'll lift up 2 to 3 inches. It's approved for cleanup on water as well, but it does a good job in removing a bulk of the fluid from the concrete or the surface that you're cleaning up the spill. The tarp here, it's kind of mimicking the concrete application. So whenever you do have a sheen left over behind that's soaked into the concrete, a product like OMG Eliminate would be great to apply to completely mitigate the hydrocarbons as well.
Bingo. Get it. All right, good job, guys. Anybody see any oil on the ground there? It's gone. Good job. All right, so now what we're going to do is demonstrate OMG's product called Eliminate. Eliminate breaks down the hydrocarbon chains in real time. So for very simplistic thoughts, we're going to use diesel here, but diesel is a bunch of hydrogens and carbons attached by bonds. The process that we're using with this OMG Solutions product called Eliminate is called a chemical oxidation process. The chemical part means we're going to use chemicals in a solution to break those hydrocarbon bonds. The oxidation part means once they're broken into individual elements of hydrogen and carbon, they oxidize or attach to oxygen, so making the byproducts of water and carbon dioxide. So we're not gonna test the soil and show it's clean, are we? Yeah. Okay, why not? Does it really matter? We're just gonna contaminate it.
It's clean.
All right, so just to demonstrate the process with the Hanby test kit here, the first thing we're gonna do is get our soil sample. And we're gonna show you the soil is clean before we contaminate it. So everything you need to do 15 tests are included in the kit. We pull out our scale, we get an empty beaker out, and we measure out 5 grams of soil. 5 grams of soil is the EPA recommended sample size for doing soil analysis. So in the real world, when you're out in the field, it really doesn't have to be 5.00 grams. It can be 4.8 to 5.2. It's more important to measure out your soil sample as quickly as possible and get that solvent on that soil sample. Once you have that solvent on that soil sample, you've trapped those light volatiles from dissipating into the air. It gives you a much more accurate reading of what's there. So the steps in the process, again, we pulled out our scale, put the empty beaker, measured out our 5 grams, poured the extract solvent into the soil sample, stir it around. By stirring it around, you're increasing the contact of the solvent with the contaminant that's in the soil and pulling the contaminant into the solvent. Then you're going to pour out or decant that off from the beaker into the test tube up to the scribed line. And then we're going to take our white catalyst powder, which is our color development reagent, and pour it into the test tube and instantly develop color. So if there's any hydrocarbon present in that soil sample, as soon as that white powder hits that solvent, it's going to change color. In this case, we're expecting it to be white, meaning there's nothing in that soil. White represents 0 or blank. Shake it up, and we've got white. That means we got some clean soil that we're starting with here. White represents 0 or blank. So now Randy is adding diesel fuel to that soil and contaminating that soil. It was clean, I mean, whatever. Stir it around, now it's dirty. Turn over that soil and make sure that stuff comes up from the bottom that maybe didn't get touched by the diesel. Making sure we have a nice contaminated sample.
It's very contaminated now.
We're looking for a real dark color. We want, yesterday we had 59,000 ppm. We're looking for something bigger today. Just to give you guys an idea here, sitting on the table, this was yesterday's results. This was 59,000. After treating it once, we dropped it to 31,000. And then, I don't see the other one, but after letting it sit for 15 minutes, not touching the soil anymore, just literally letting the product sit on there, it dropped from 31,000 to 19,000. So from 59,000 to 19,000 and
You're too far away, probably.
All right, so going back to the same process again. She got the empty beaker out. We've got our contaminated soil sample. She's measuring out her 5 grams of soil. That brings me to another thought. Oftentimes we get asked questions about does soil type matter? We're doing chemistry here with the field test kit as well as chemistry here with the eliminate product. Soil type doesn't matter, whether it's sandy, whether it's clay, whether it's a mixture, whether it's wet, whether it's dry, it doesn't matter for the chemistry that's going on. By measuring out your sample by weight is the most accurate way you could possibly do it, and that's what we're doing. So that way, if you have something that's wet or clay, it's going to be more dense or heavy, so you're going to get less material in your soil sample. Then we'll stay away. Then you would, if you had a dry sample or a sandy sample. So the process is still going on. We've done our extraction. Now we're adding it to the test tube up to the scribed line. Take our color development reagent catalyst, that white catalyst powder. Telltale sign of high contamination here is you'll notice that, give us a white background. Solvent prior to use is clear in color. So we haven't even added our color development reagent catalyst to it yet, but you can see we start typically with a clear solvent. Oh, the speaker. And we haven't added the color development reagent catalyst yet. You can see that solvent, the extract solvent, is colored. Discolored catalyst is a high indicator. A telltale sign of high contamination is when your solvent color is no longer clear. So we're going to add the color development reagent catalyst here, and develop our color and find out what our starting concentration level is here. I want you to notice there, before she even shakes it, just dropping that white powder into that test tube, you can already see that it's no longer white. That's how fast the chemistry works. So hold that thing up before you shake it. See, she hasn't even shaken it yet, and we've already got a nice dark color. It's no longer white. That's how fast the chemistry works. So, we have a highly contaminated sample here. You can compare that to your color calibration photo standard here. You can see that the result that she just did is darker than that 5%. 5% represents 50,000. So we're higher than 50,000. That's our starting contamination level. Now we will actually calculate this number and get an exact number for you like we did over there where it was actually 58,900 because we used our mobile app to make that measurement. Instead of using the human eye, we used the camera on your phone to snap a picture of the result, and the app calculates the concentration level for you, immediately generates a PDF report that's instantly shareable and stored for future reference. So we'll do that shortly, but we're just not going to slow down the demo. We're going to move forward. So what we know here is this soil sample is highly contaminated. It's over 50,000 parts per million. So the first step in the process is you want to take water. Randy's got water here, and he's just saturating that contaminated soil to the point that it's, you're just adding the water, you're making it more permeable so that when we add the solution to it, it flows through the soil sample easier. So you don't need standing water, no puddles, just dampen that soil a little bit. Now that he's done that, you're gonna make sure it's all nice and wet. Okay, yeah, the bottom of it's still dry, so you want to add some water to that side, flip it over.
Not that.
So just making sure all the soil is dampened before we add the solution. Now the solution, this eliminate solution, is a non-hazardous and non-toxic product. And as I mentioned before, the byproducts are going to be water and carbon dioxide, so there's nothing that you're introducing here into your contaminated site that's harmful in any way. No enzymes, no bugs, so there's no shelf life, it's not weather sensitive. It's a chemical oxidation process. So what he's doing is he's out in the field. This rake is simulating like using a tiller out in the field because you want to have surface contact between the solution and the contaminant. So surface contact is important. So if you're out in the field and you can't use a tiller to turn that soil over to create that contact, all it's going to do is it's going to migrate and take the same path that contamination took. It's just going to take a little bit longer to do that. You could also drill holes and inject it in the ground and let it migrate out that way as well. But to get the most the fastest results would be to be able to increase that surface contact more quickly by using a tiller and turning it over. So it's been treated now. Now we're going to get our soil sample again, start over, and find out how much we got a reduction from this eliminator. So one of the benefits of using the kit is you can see we're getting our results in about 4 minutes to do a soil sample versus taking a sample, sending it off to a lab and having to wait 10 to 14 days is the normal time. It costs between $80 and $120 a sample. You still have to wait 10 to 14 days. Or you can pay more money to expedite that process. And if you expedite it, you see the lab, they don't start their calendar clock till they get the sample from you and they say, okay, 48-hour turnaround. 48-hour turnaround is going to cost you $200 to $500. You're getting this right here in 4 minutes for $25. That keeps your project moving forward to make sure you're done. You can move on to the next job.
Yeah.
So again, what you did, you measured out our 5 grams of soil, added the extract solvent, stirring it around. You're increasing the surface contact of the solvent, pulling that hydrocarbon contamination out of that soil and into the solvent. Once you've done that extraction, you pour that off into the test tube. Add the color development reagent catalyst, the white catalyst powder, and develop the color. Oh, notice the solvent is clear again. Remember that telltale sign is when the solvent has got discoloration. Earlier when it was yellow tinted, this time it's clear tinted, which tells us already before developing the color that we know it's worked. We've reduced the contamination level. So now add that color development reagent catalyst, cap, shape, develop the color, find out how much reduction we've done, quantify that number. Nice light color here now, notice. So you saw it here, about 10 minutes to do that kind of reduction. We went from over 50,000, which we don't know what that number is, probably closer to 60,000, and we're down here to near white again. So we're talking about, that's about 500 ppm. So from about over 50,000 to 500 ppm, just like that. So again, the product is non-hazardous and non-toxic, so there's no problem using this on a spill cleanup. And at this point, I guess we'll open it for any questions somebody might have. All right, so if you come over here to the tarp, you would see, if you rubbed your finger across this tarp, you'd see there's still a little bit of residue left from their cleanup. They got the bulk of it out of the way for us. There's still a little bit of residue there on the tarp. So this is when you would walk in with a product like Eliminate, spray it on there, and eat it up. So now you'll have a clean tarp. I mean, it's not going to squeak for us, but you could literally squeak it.
Oh, look at the water table.
You know, the thing is, it's been submitted for the EPA, the NCP list. Like they've already been added to the NCP list. It's been submitted to the EPA to be added to the NCP list. We've gone through every product on the list and compared the toxicities, and it's way lower than anything on the list already. So it's kind of a no-brainer. It's been submitted twice, but it's been submitted in the wrong category. So now it's being submitted in the right category the third time. It was submitted as a surface washing agent, and now it's being submitted under the miscellaneous category where it should be. So it should be a no-brainer. However, whether it's on the NCP list or not, each state has their own set of rules. So each state has to choose whether they're going to allow it or not. And up here, this Northeast territory up here, it's been used all over the place. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Ohio. So I'll mention real fast an example of the Pennsylvania. Okay, if you looked over here on the tarp, he added some water to where it was to see it bead up, so you would know that there's still a little bit of oil there. And then now he's going to go and clean up that water, and he's going to add the Eliminate and get rid of that leftover residue there. But I want to give you an example of this Eliminate product in use in Pennsylvania. There was an 18-wheeler that was wrecked in between the side of the road and the mountainside, and it was spilling diesel all over the ground. So the DEQ told the responder, you got to find a different way. You can't dig anything out of here. First of all, the rocks are here. You're going to create a landslide. he was already using my kit, and I said, hey, Michael, why don't you, you took Perry Beatty's class in the HAZBOP Responder Network, right? He goes, yeah. I said, didn't Perry introduce you to the Eliminate product? He goes, yeah, you're right, I should use that. So he called Randy up, got the product from him, went out there and put it. His starting contamination level that he used the Hanby kit in the mobile app, he found he was at 68,000 ppm starting level. So he applied the Eliminate, got it down in 2 days by just dumping it on top and letting it migrate through, because he couldn't dig through rock. So he just let it migrate through, and in 2 days he had it from 68,000 down to 332 ppm. At that point he says, okay, I'm gonna take a sample, I'm gonna send it off to the lab. So he sent it off to the lab. By the time the lab results came back 2 days later, the process kept oxidizing, it kept going, non-detect. So he goes to the insurance company, applies for payment, says, here, done my job, and here's the lab results that show non-detect. And the insurance company says, you know what, give us a second. So they went and sent another set of people out there to take samples and send them to their own lab. Not that we don't agree with Hanby, not that we don't trust the lab you use, but we just want a third. So they got a third opportunity there, and the results came back non-detect. They gave them the check and said, good job, buddy. So that was a simple dump on top and let it migrate through the ground. So what did we do over here, Randy?
No more beats.
So he added the water back after he did the Eliminate to clean the tarp, and now adding the water, you don't see the beads. The beads would represent that, meaning there's oil still left in it, so that's been cleaned up. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Perry.
Okay, if you have questions about any of the products, anything about the training, please come over and visit with us at the booth.